Hi everyone, my name is Anthony and I work within the Consumer Planning and Insight team here at Vulture Island. This morning I'll take you through consumer trends, identifying what we saw last year in terms of domestic tourism, how the outlook for the upcoming year is shaping, and importantly, what are the opportunities for us here in Dublin for the year ahead. And looking back on 2020, we all understand it was a difficult year. COVID totally transformed how we approached our everyday lives, of which travel was one aspect. We really couldn't predict how the year was going to transpire, and it is only looking back through our data do we understand the dynamics of the market. First, we saw domestic breaks were not a replacement for overseas breaks, something we were hoping for but didn't quite materialize. Similarly, frequency declined compared to previous years, and a lot of this was driven by lockdowns. Both of these trends put downward pressure on the domestic market. We also saw very short lead times for bookings. Our consumers were booking about 2 weeks in advance for their trip as opposed to 4. And this is something we're expecting to see again this year. This highlights marketing will be critical in ensuring top-of-mind presence when the window for bookings open. This will also provide the reassurance consumers will be looking for in terms of what is actually available to book. As we know, this is a consumer concern. In both instances, this presents us with a great opportunity to ensure that we're inspiring consumers to convert what they are thinking and planning into booking. Something different we did see was the emergence of the 4-night stay. Most people will do 2 to 3 nights or a week long, so this is something in the middle. This dynamic is interesting as it increases spend for short breaks but decreases that for long breaks. So we need to be sure to understand this dynamic and what we can do to optimize spend. Outdoor activities are a growth area last year, which illustrates how being open and COVID safe will be critical. Again, having a presence will be important to capitalize on this opportunity, with demand for the outdoor very, very high. Day trips were coming through really strongly, driven in part by lockdowns, but once these were relaxed, we saw day trips continue as an important bridge to longer breaks in an effort to soften the monotony of the pandemic. We also saw the physical range of day trips being extended, with people realizing they could do and see more in a day. This is a very promising development. People willing to travel longer widens the catchment for Dublin and the city, bringing in more potential customers. In review, the numbers taking trips last year wasn't great. Through the summer months, we recorded less than a third of people taking the trip, which is around half of what we would see traditionally. However, 2021 is a new year, and we see green shoots and intention measures for domestic travel in 2 places. First, those taking fewer trips than normal last year are rebounding with intended increased frequency this year. Second, we're seeing those who didn't travel at all last year entering into the consideration set, so topping at the top of the funnel. Our most recent data shows almost half of consumers are intending a short break in the Republic in the next 6 months. So there are promising signs here. When we look across the year, we see traditional travel patterns emerging. Peaks in July and August, with bridging months of June and September. Some eager consumers are looking into May, but this may be optimistic for those anticipating inter-county travel. Here, there are 2 important elements to consider. The first is day trips and how these act as important bridging behaviour to breaks. We believe this will continue. This will help in padding the shoulder months and extend volumes. As said earlier, this is particularly relevant to Dublin, as this will help in drawing in unconstrained adults from broader catchments, including Northern Ireland. The second is September. Traditionally a month people look to the continent to capture the last of the summer sun, and this year is the same. Whether this is possible is yet to be seen, but if it is not, people will be looking for alternatives. It is here that the domestic trade can take advantage, but we need to be prepared to seize the opportunity. Of course, this won't be families due to school commitments, but unconstrained adults will be very keen to travel in this month. So how can we entice a stay in Dublin instead? Can we swap intended sun for a touch of luxury? What other sensorial experiences can we provide as a replacement to continental sun? And this is our challenge. In terms of planning, we see that bookings are low, and there are a variety of reasons for this, some of which we can control, others we cannot. The predominant barrier is travel restrictions. A lack of certainty around when, where, and how far means consumers aren't willing to commit, and this is perfectly understandable. People are waiting for permission to go, but once it is given, consumers will act fast. The other dynamic is vaccines. Consumers are a little unsure as to the full implications of the vaccine program, and while there are milestones in terms of proportions of vaccinated adults by certain months, there is ongoing uncertainty around supply and vaccine type. Related to restrictions, this is a big mental barrier withholding action for consumers. However, when we look at why people are booking, we see a couple of things which we can control and therefore optimize. First, we see consumers are really concerned about the price of accommodation. Historically, we've also always understood consumers compare the cost of domestic trips with overseas, and that domestic prices have always been viewed a little negatively. But this is amplified this year. We've heard from media and the banks that sections of society have managed to save money during this period, but we also need to acknowledge that many have not. Also, those more likely to travel overseas have done so because it's cheaper, often comprising of those with less disposable income. It's these groups who are now needing to look at the domestic holiday market. There are also some other trends impacting consumers' willingness to spend. Families having to spend a little more during lockdowns to keep children fed and entertained. Increased utility bills covering winter months. And there is evidence that younger, unconstrained adults are taking this opportunity to make solid progress against house deposits. There's a lot going on. Overall, we need to be sensitive to cost concerns, as this is a key pinch point. Linked to price is value for money. So what does the holiday investment get me in terms of activities and entertainment? Importantly, value for money is something that we can proactively influence, given it's a consumer judgment. So how can we best do this? How can we package deals, partner with others, include experiences which are free or complimentary to help support the overall value perception? Widening the breadth of experience can often strengthen the value. Again, related to this is attractions. Our research shows there is some fear and anxiety regarding what exactly will be available and open once we're on the move. And there is a sense of risk of venturing where this is unknown. So this becomes about marketing and talking very clearly about what is available. Safety concerns will always be present, and this is driving bookings for some. The heightened demand for self-catering is evidence of this. This highlights the need to maintain clear and evident safety protocols and have these cues in places where they can be recognized, but not necessarily intrusive. We've been conditioned over time to these protocols, and to some extent, they're very much in the background, but we still need them. It's a case of if they're there, people won't take too much notice, but if they're absent, that's when unease begins. Social distancing is a big part of this, and we need to be hyper vigilant in indoor settings that this is being adhered to because, one, not having the social distancing makes people uncomfortable, but two, people can get really annoyed at others for not following the rules. In this context, people are viewed as the risk, not the establishment. Cancellation policies are important, and there is still a great deal that we don't know. This is a time in which we're all trying to manage some form of risk. Providing clear cancellation policies helps mitigate any financial exposure that some may feel. When we come to need states and motivations, we noted last year the really warm and rich territory of family connection and bonding, the need for reconnection. This was a product of enforced separation due to the series of lockdowns. But we also saw the emergence of three need states, which traditionally have been less important, but circumstances brought them to the fore. The first was the need to breathe, to take a moment to take a break, whether this be on the beach or within a restaurant, hotel, or bar, some quiet reflection to regroup and recharge. The second was to have a bit of fun, given the trying situations that we found ourselves in and the seriousness of it all. People had the energy and drive to create these opportunities, to feel alive, coupled with the ability to interact with others. The third was exploration, the need to explore and discover new places, to be exposed to different things. Part of this was fed by the renewed appreciation for Ireland as the pandemic shone a sharper light on what was important to us. But this also came from the realization that there is so much more to discover. Discovery is at the heart of the seeker, the very core of what domestic tourism is about, and one which our campaign platform Keep Discovering specifically aims. Exploration is something we can really lean into, as it doesn't necessarily mean places that are far and away. It applies equally to areas which are familiar but relatively unexplored, and for some, Dublin is such a place. Most recently, we completed research into understanding what Dublin is and means to Dubliners. From this, we know there is such an intense pride in the city, such passion. formed through a sense of place and attachment through generations, and shown in the ways in which we talk to one another. The pride runs very deep and binds people together. It is this authentic expression that is most strong. Dubliners are very invested in the city, and the language they use is highly emotive and underpinned by passion and pride. This deep emotion is created and enhanced by the city's rich history, its renowned characters, and vibrant culture. We know and have heard time and time again that Irish people, but within that Dubliners, are unique. This idea that we've got real Dublin characters that everyone can relate to with a sense of warmth, openness, and friendliness. Culturally, it's the hub. It's where everything happens. This includes access to the talent, but also the variety and range of acts and venues. There's a real sense that Dubliners are so fortunate in this regard. And Dubliners themselves often spoke to how lucky they were to have access to such activities. Dublin's uniqueness is built from its contrasts, the nature, the sea, the city, which can allow for a lot of unexpected surprise. And Dubliners are very protective of this uniqueness. In this context, we hear a lot of sadness from people about the city being empty, and the appreciation and need for people to rekindle its vibrancy. However, despite all these positive perceptions, people are quite restrictive in the way they use the city, which creates challenges for us. First, the city is recessive in people's minds. It's not part of their planning behaviour or mindset. Use typically revolves around a social trifecta: shopping, eating, and drinking. Perceptions of the offer outside this context is quite limited. When we explored this in our research, people were actually really surprised how narrow their usage and interaction with the city was. Because of this limited use, their footprint across the city is very small, and there are pockets of Dublin which people just aren't accessing. Dubliners zone the city for day and nighttime use due to safety, habit, and lack of awareness. Visits into the city can be highly routine for some, and we heard about how it only took some 10 to 15 minutes to get from one side to another as they stick to known routes for them. Consequently, there are many underutilized areas. The third is Dubliners don't see themselves as a tourist. There is a feeling that what is in the city isn't necessarily designed or targeted for them. This is where we see Dubliners striving for authentic Dublin experiences. But these encounters must be relevant and not manufactured. They must feel and be relevant to include them. So the challenge for us is, how can we drive reappraisal of the city, for Dubliners to see the city differently? How do we overcome the recessiveness, the low use and awareness of what's on offer? And how do we nudge people away from the known and familiar when they re-enter the city? To understand how we can develop cities and city areas, we need to understand what they deliver. From research, we see multifaceted rationales for visiting urban spaces, a real fusion of motivation and context. But at its core, it's about packing in the experiences. One of the most important elements is seeking and exploring. The opportunity to come across experiences and contexts in an unstructured way. This builds on feelings of local authenticity, but a sense of uniqueness. This idea that, my trip was different from others because of this X encounter. A real sense of surprise and delight. Iconic attractions play their part, feed into memory structures and the importance of checking off bucket list experiences. However, nestled within this is the importance of building in those contrasts, ensuring there's something there for everybody. Food plays a critical and central role, as does authenticity, reflecting about what the city is rooted in, what it means and delivers. It is important that people immerse themselves in the city to get this closeness, either by bike or by foot. There's a strong sense of supporting local and cultural protectionism, which is really relevant given people know the tourism and hospitality sectors have been hit very hard recently. And finally, it's about taking it all in, dwelling and taking time. Absorbing the culture is really important, the ambience and the atmosphere. We asked respondents to think ahead 5 years to what they expect urban spaces to look like. Pedestrian spaces have gained heightened importance, linked very much to COVID-19, and a high priority for outdoor spaces. Consumers really want to ensure the trade has made strong investments in these spaces. There's an expectation of close exploration, walking and cycling, and seating to encourage downtime and reflection. There's a clear focus on sustainable transport, and there's a strong expectation that the city centres will be less car-focused. People envision better transport and connectivity across and beyond the city boundaries, with some looking above to skywalks and cable cars across the city. I think we can all expect greater digitization, and this is geared to ensuring seamless and convenient experiences. Apps which do everything, links to experiences and loyalty deals, light touch but profoundly impactful. The other side of tech is experience enhancement, interactive experiences through AR and virtual guides with itineraries, for example. Another element was multiculturalism, with consumers wanting to shine a light on greater diversity. This works into the cultural protection mode, where it becomes less about the high street brands and more about local businesses, and by extension, into more multicultural and diverse spaces. There's a friendly reminder, though, that tech can't place human interaction. It's really important to have people interaction to tap into local knowledge, which links into that all-important authenticity. Lastly, people like to believe that we'll all be better citizens of the world, environmentally and culturally conscious, with an eye on the lasting impacts COVID may have. So thinking now about what the trade can do to make sure our urban spaces are future-proofed, it's clear partnerships among the trade will be central to the delivering of compelling attractions and seamless experiences. It's continuing to have local businesses joined up and working hard. From there, the creation of compelling bundles, the all-in deals, the bespoke packages. And really consumers want it all done for them. So the question for us is about how do we do that and what does that look like? How can we leverage local knowledge, package it up, and help reassure people that I'm in the know from the get-go? And finally, working with local government to create attractive urban spaces that deliver magical visitor experiences. In terms of the experiences which chime with Dubliners, they centre around the discovery of something new and what feels authentic to them. So again, it's about the local walking trails, pop-up food, coffee trucks across neighbourhoods as a way to get people into different parts of the city. It's about leveraging our uniqueness, about marrying the urban space with the outdoors, the vibrancy of outdoor tourism. It's about heroing our natural assets, bringing new things into these environments, such as the orchestra in the park. It's also recreating the magic moments on the street through arts and culture, something that was seen as quite compelling, and questions of how we can incorporate the indoor environments as well as outdoors. Finally, something we've seen in other research is a desire for luxury experiences, and there was a feeling that this is the time and opportunity to dial that up. Looking to the future, all indications are that many are hoping to return to a more normal stance, with the outdoors front of mind for many. Food and drink is a major preoccupation and top of mind for everyone, and they're thinking about how they can do something different. So dining on the bar, street food, distillery, restaurant tours, just taking an extension on from what is normally on offer. There's a focus on the water and ways in which we can enhance experiences. People are looking for ways to engage. Festivals, live events, which are so central to other cities, how can these be brought into Dublin in a COVID-friendly way? The theme of magic appears here, enjoying something special, memorable and shared. Family-friendly events are top of mind, and many are hoping that sporting events as well can get back on track here. So, things to remember. We really need to present a connected and accessible city. We've seen a lack of awareness of what is available, so there's a real opportunity to raise the salience for the different pockets of the city to let people know what's on offer. In addition, we need to bind experiences together in ways that stretch people across the cityscape and beyond, to break habitual use patterns and expand interaction with the city outside of the social trifecta. By doing so, we facilitate discovery, a motivation sitting at the heart of why people interact with cities in the first place. Provide the catalyst for chance interactions, the uncovering of hidden gems, the delighting with surprises. But we need to do it in a way which is authentic, true to what Dublin means to Dubliners and Irish people. So what is the living history of the area? How can we facilitate access and understanding, tell the story in a new way? There is a sense that if we package this well in the right areas, that this can intrigue and therefore appeal. Thank you.